On December 31st, Mr. Meadows received this internet conspiracy theory from Representative Perry.
See, it doesn't mean that it's not true, though. I mean, they have to investigate it.
They did, though, but I didn't realize how Perry was really like the source of a lot of this. This guy I've never heard of is really like feeding
on the
all this
screen
stuff.
now is the text that Representative Perry sent to Mr. Meadows, copying a YouTube.
Why can't we just work with the Italian government? What is that? What
he means to try to investigate this claim about the Italian defense contractor switching Trump votes to Biden votes via satellite or whatever they're talking about.
Look, it's a YouTube video. We can watch it next.
There you go.
Look it up.
Link with the message, quote, "Why can't we just work with the Italian government?" The next day, the president's chief of staff sent the YouTube link to Mr. Rosen, who forwarded it to Mr. Donahue. Mr. Donahue, did you watch this video?
I did, Congressman.
How long was the video?
Approximately 20 minutes.
Let's just take a look at an excerpt of that video, if we may.
Oh, they're going to show it to us.
What's being said out of Rome, out of Italy, is that this was done in the U.S. Embassy. That there was a certain State Department guy whose name I don't know yet. I guess this is probably going to come out in Italy at some point. And he was the mastermind, not the mastermind, but the
look it up.
But the guy running the operation of changing the votes. And that he was doing this in conjunction with some support from MI6, the CIA, and this Leonardo group.
Mr. Donahue, what was your reaction when you watched that entire 20-minute video?
I emailed the acting attorney general and I said pure insanity, which was my impression of the video, which was patently absurd.
Mr. Rosen, you...
So you have the Trump administration. So Perry is scraping. He somehow has a random YouTube guy concocting conspiracy theories about Italian satellites switching Trump Biden votes, and he sends it to Trump's chief of staff, and Trump's chief of staff sends it to the Justice Department. And he's like, "Watch this 20-minute fucking YouTube video." This crazy guy going off about satellite switching votes, and he's like, okay, sure.
Like, what do you even do with that? Like, how do you fall? Like, I guess put an APB out on the ball guy in the mask.
You know, I almost wish Trump was president now, because if Trump was president now, there'd be very, very good chances that like the Trump administration would be sending Coach Red Pill videos to the Justice Department. To be like, listen, this guy has some information on the Ukraine-Russia situation. I think you should look into.
Oh my God.
You were asked by Mr. Meadows to meet with Mr. Johnson, who is the person in that video.
Oh, so wait, so Trump's chief of staff says, I want you to meet with that guy in the video. Okay.
Which one? The guy at the desk or the guy in the mask?
The guy at the desk, the guy who's making these claims about the Italian satellites.
Okay.
I'd never even heard of this before this hearing.
What was your reaction to that request?
So ordinarily I'd get an email like this and there was no phone call. It would just come over the transom. But this one he called me, Mr. Meadows, and asked me to meet with Mr. Johnson. And I told him this whole thing about Italy had been debunked, and that should be the end of that, and I certainly wasn't going to meet with this person. And he initially seemed to accept that. He said, well, why won't you meet with him? I said, because if he has real evidence, which this video doesn't show, he can walk into an FBI field office anywhere in the United States. There's 55 of them. And he said, okay. But then he called me back a few minutes later and complained and said, I didn't tell you, but this fellow Johnson is working with Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Giuliani is really offended that you think they have to go to a FBI field office. That's insulting. So couldn't you just have the FBI or you meet with these guys? And by then I was somewhat agitated and told him, that there was no way on earth that I was going to do that. I wasn't going to meet with Mr. Johnson. I certainly wasn't going to meet with Mr. Giuliani. I'd made that clear repeatedly, and said that's the end of that. You know, don't raise this with me again. And
He doesn't want to meet with Giuliani because he doesn't want to meet with either of the campaigns because it's a clear conflict of interest. So that's what's going on here. That's why he's like getting kind of ticked off that Giuliani keeps wanting to meet with him.
Well,
so,
I mean, also like
because
this is like, I mean, they're desperate. If this is what they're scraping for conspiracy theories about Italian satellites switching votes.
Well, he's also saying that they looked into this. That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish they would go more into,
Right.
you know, what the evidence against these claims are. So
Yeah.
everything that all of the claims that they mention the evidence seems, you know, logical, not just something stupid. So
Mr. Donahue and I had been exchanging our views about this. I think it was 7:13 on a Friday night of New Year's Day. I had run out of patience, and I sent the email that you're talking about, where I made pretty clear that I had no interest in doing anything further with this.
Just to button this up, Mr. Donahue, did you receive a follow-up call from a Department of Defense official about this conspiracy?
I did. I believe it was that same day.
Can you give details on that at all?
I received a telephone call from Kash Patel, who I know was a DOD official at that time, worked for, I believe, Acting Secretary of Defense Miller, and he didn't know much about it. He basically said, do you know anything about this Italy thing and what this is all about? And I informed him that the Chief of Staff had raised the issue with us in his office on December 29th, that we had looked into it a little bit. We had run the name that was provided to us by the Chief of Staff. I learned that that individual was in custody in Italy. He had been arrested for a cyber offense of some sort in Italy. The allegation was that he had been exfiltrating data from his company. He was either an employee or a contractor of that company, and he was in custody. That the whole thing was very, very murky at best, and the video was absurd. But that we, the department, were not going to have anything to do with it, and DOD should make up its own mind as to what they're going to do. But I made it clear to him that I didn't think it was anything worth pursuing.
She called the video absurd, and
So the guy who this claim originated from was an Italian guy who was already in jail for stealing and committing cybersecurity illegal actions against his own company. Was already in jail. He was the one making this claim that this occurred.
yeah.
So very, very trustworthy source of information.
And despite the absurdity of that conspiracy theory, we learned that Mr. Meadows discussed it frequently in the White House. And Mr. Meadows didn't let the matter go. The request went from the Department of Justice to the Secretary of Defense, Christopher Miller. As you'll hear, Secretary Miller actually reached out to a high-ranking official based in Italy to follow up on this claim.
The ask for him was, can you call out the defense attaché Rome and find out what the heck's going on, because I'm getting all these weird, crazy reports, and probably the guy on the ground knows more than anything.
The Select Committee confirmed that a call was actually placed by Secretary Miller to the attaché in Italy to investigate the claim that Italian satellites were switching votes from Trump to Biden. This is one of the best examples of the lengths to which the President Trump would go to stay in power, scouring the internet to support his conspiracy theories shown here, as he told Mr. Donahue in that December 27th call, quote, "You guys may not be following the internet the way I do." President Trump's efforts to this point had failed.
Quote.
Stonewalled by Mr. Rosen and Mr. Donahue, President Trump had only one option. He needed to make Clark acting Attorney General. Mr. Rosen, during a January 2nd meeting with Mr. Clark, did you confront him again about his contact with the president? And if so, can you describe that?
So at this point, Mr. Clark had told us that the president had asked him to consider whether he would be willing to replace me, supposedly on a timetable by Monday, the 4th. And so I had told Mr. Clark I thought he was making a colossal error in judgment, but I also hoped to persuade him to be more rational and to understood what we had understood, that there's not a factual basis for the fraud assertions that are being made. So at this meeting, Mr. Donahue and I met with Mr. Clark, and I guess my hopes were disappointed in that Mr. Clark continued to express view that he thought there was fraud, even though he had not been a participant in the department's review of that, and that he was dissatisfied that we knew what we were doing. So, but he had acknowledged that he had had further, I don't know if it was meeting or phone calls or what, but further discussion with the president, despite having, a week earlier said that if he wouldn't do that, and if he did, if he got an invitation to do that, he would let Rich Donahue or me know. So it was a contentious meeting where we were chastising him that he was insubordinate, he was out of line, he had not honored his own representations of what he would do, and he raised again that he thought that letter should go out, and we were not receptive to that.
Did he tell you in that the president had offered him the...
I don't know if they talk about it here, but there was some articles I saw about the Italy satellite thing, and they said that they had done hand recounts of some of the areas that they were claiming the satellite switched the votes, and that the hand recounts matched the machine voting.
Right.
So.
Was that in conjunction with the 68% voting error thing?
It was not.
Okay.
No, that was a different claim.
Gotcha.
So
they did do hand recounts in
they did
a lot
hand
of the
recounts in most of
counties.
these, if not all of these places. Yeah.